Washington's request, Canadian authorities have arrested Huawei's chief financial officer. Meng Wanzhou was detained in Vancouver, and neither the US nor Canada have said why.
We demand the other side to provide an explanation for the detention and for the immediate release of the relevant person.
Huawei says it's received little information about the arrest, adding that it's not aware of any wrongdoing by Ms. Meng. Huawei is the world's leading supplier of telecommunications equipment. It's also the world's third largest smartphone manufacturer. And Meng is more than just a top Huawei official. She's the daughter of the firm's founder. In the city of Shenzhen, the Chinese tech hub that Huawei calls home, people are worried.
I think this incident will worsen bilateral relations. Huawei currently has a big share in the smartphone and communications markets, and that promotes the country's image and economy. This action will definitely affect the bilateral relationship.
Stock markets around the world dropped on the news of the arrest.
Traders are essentially very fearful that the arrest of the CFO is going to derail the good progress that has been made between the US and China in relation to trade.
The biggest losers were Chinese technology shareholders, but Britain's FTSE also hit a two-year low. American authorities have had Huawei in their crosshairs for months. US intelligence agencies have accused Huawei of using its smartphones to spy on Americans. Washington's also put pressure on its allies to stop buying Huawei equipment. Australia and New Zealand have excluded Huawei in plans for network upgrades, and the British telco BT is removing Huawei equipment from its cell towers. At stake in Washington's trade war with Beijing is close to $700 billion worth of goods the two countries sell to each other every year. And for Huawei, it's now a family matter. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
Well, let's talk to Max Wolff in New York. Max, it is difficult to underestimate the significance of this arrest of this executive from this company, from this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's also a cumulative effect going on here. So the timing is also quite problematic. And the general context of 10% tariffs looking to be potentially on their way to 25%. And the sort of thing we were probably falsely hailing as a little bit of a reprieve, the 90-day reprieve, lasted about 1 day instead of 90. So that's 89 out of 90 short of what had been hoped for. So the context is difficult and tricky. And this event looks to be more than a bit of a problem on its own, and probably a compounded problem given what's going on before, after, around, and during.
Max, we shouldn't be surprised. This is what Iran economic sanctions look like. This is what the US-China trade war looks like at the sharp end. Someone gets put in jail. Someone gets arrested.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know if we absolutely have to go there. That's a sort of unfortunate sign of how bad things are. It's also kind of unusual for the U.S. to be the party doing the prosecution of a highly linked, high-profile individual. That tended historically not to be the kind of thing that the U.S. would do. It would be the kind of thing that the U.S. would make an enormous fuss about if it was done to a U.S. trade partner or in a U.S. trading partner under difficulty. So I think it's also maybe an unfortunate and unnecessary milestone that the United States is the issuing country of the arrest warrant here, and perhaps that change away from the norm is part of the story that we're really talking about here as the backstory in terms of a kind of a new approach to trade in the U.S.
What's your reading of where this goes next? I mean, does China retaliate like for like? Are we going to get into some sort of tit-for-tat series of high-profile business arrests?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit hard because it's a little bit hard to get your footing here. So clearly President Trump went into the discussions with Xi and went into the discussions at the G20 in a much weaker position than he had been announcing, and he largely embraced a deal, at least for 90 days, that he had been rejecting, which would sort of seem to signal quite positively that maybe the U.S. was returning to the negotiating table, but it seems as though this arrest was considered at the same time. So best case scenario, it was tone deaf and insensitive. Worst case scenario, we have a president making international trade policy to titillate his domestic fans, and those domestic fans just sort of like to watch a big dramatic fight, when that might be a good entertainment television, but it is terrible news for the U.S. and for the global economy for the foreseeable future.
Very briefly, everyone needs a resolution on this quickly, don't they?
Yeah, you have the largest and second largest economies in the world. China is responsible for most of the growth. This is already setting tremors into the world. We're looking at negative trade momentum for the first time in a long time. And we're looking at the champion of global free trade become the champion for global intervention in trade. And that is a sea change of the unpositive type.
Max Wolff in New York, thank you.